or good evening. My name is Ronnie Shoemaker. I'll be the moderator of this session. I want to welcome everyone to Phys Ed Summit of the ESPE chat. This summit is designed for the elementary physical education and it provides quality physical education for every child. We are an offshoot of the original Phys Ed Summit, and we are very thankful for their leadership in developing the summit through their guidance and helping us develop our summit. Please remember that we are relying a lot on technology during this session. If someone does not if something doesn't seem to be working correctly, please be patient, and we will start a room over, and we'll send out those links through Twitter. Your presenter today is going to be Ben Launders, and he is a K-12 certified physical education teacher, and he is his ninth year in teaching. He's completed his national boards in physical education, and he also has his master's in education as well as educational leadership. He runs a resource website for PE teachers called the PEspecialist.com. He has created this presentation to help you save time, manage your kids and classroom for more effectively, and become a more effective teacher. Feel free. That's me. All right. Are you ready, Ben?
I'm ready to go whenever you are.
All right. I'm ready.
Cool. All right, friends. Well, thank you, first of all, for coming out. It means a lot that you're showing up on your own time. And we've got a good presentation for you. Please make sure that you chat in on the Tozzle page, and then Ronnie will let me know if you guys have any questions or you want me to stop or explain something. I'm going to try to move quick because I have a lot of slides. And let us know if the video or the audio is not working. And I'm going to test the screen share real quick and make sure that you guys can see me. Is that working, Ronnie? Okay, cool. All right, well, here we go. All right, this is a presentation that's going to be on phys ed hacks, and we're going to try to focus on how to save time and teach quality PE. If you guys want to catch me on Twitter, you can find me at the PE Specialist or on my blog, thepespecialist.com. First, a little bit about me. I teach at a school called River Springs Elementary. It's located around Columbia, South Carolina. You might have seen us on the news lately with all the rain that we're getting. And run a blog, like I said before, the PE Specialist. Down there in the corner is my awesome family. It's my wife, Lauren, and my daughter, Ellery. She's a year and a half, and that's our first kiddo. And then over here in the bottom right is my awesome co-teacher, Marcus Nellums, and that's at a Jump Rope for Heart event at our school. Overview of this talk. First off, just want to say, like I tell my kids all the time, go ahead and pat yourself on the back. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot that you guys are taking time out of your day. And I heard a presenter at this summer at the PE Institute talk about, he opened up the presentation by saying, where does the filler go to get filled? Where does the teacher go to get taught? And where does the giver go to get given to? And that kind of stuck with me. And, you know, as teachers, we're always giving and giving and giving all day long. And so this time that you're spending giving back to yourself by learning from other people is going to be really valuable in helping yourself become a better teacher. And I really hope I can give you some good tips and tricks, and you know, take what you like and trash what you don't like, because everybody has a different program. So everything that works for me might not work for you, but hopefully you find some valuable stuff. Get ready for the fire hose strategy. I'm just gonna go until Ronnie lets me know there's a question. Please let me know if I'm moving too slow or moving too quick, or you have you're confused about anything. I'll be happy to explain it. There are links and notes to all the resources that I'm going to talk about on the presentation and downloads on my blog. And there's a link on the Tozzle page, that page, that you can go and see all the slides and notes and everything. And today we're going to be doing 4 sections of hacks. First hack is management. Second is teaching. Third, technology. And then the last will be equipment. All right. First up is management hacks. I am super OCD about how precious our time is in the gym with my kids. I only see my kids once a week for 50 minutes. And so, if we waste 5 to 10 minutes talking, that's like 20% of our time. And so my kids know that we do not waste time in PE. And one way that we do that is I've developed a lot of routines and systems that kind of automate the things that are going on in the class. And that way the kids end up taking more responsibility for their learning. And that allows me to be a better teacher because I'm getting more feedback or doing more assessing or doing more direct teaching. This is a quote that I talk to my kids a lot about, and it is, I can give you the keys to success, but you have to open the door yourself. And a lot of the times when my kids are not doing what I would want them to do or behaving like I'd want them to behave, I'll tell them that quote and I'll say, guys, I can give you the keys to success, but you have to open the door yourself. And then I ask somebody to explain that quote to me, and we talk about that across all subjects. It doesn't matter how good your teacher is. They could be the best teacher in the world, but if you're not willing to take that information and take responsibility for it and use it for yourself, it's not going to help you. And so that's a great quote that you can talk to your kids about if you realize that they are not opening that door themselves with the keys that you're giving them. So first up, we have stopping signal. And what I used to do with this is I've always used music as a strategy. When the kids are moving, we always have the music on. And when the kids should stop, I always turn the music off. And then I would just say freeze. But then I went to a conference, and J.D. Hughes, the author of the book No Standing Around in My Gym and a ton of other books, his stopping signal was 1, 2, 3, and then his kids all say, huh, and then they drop down to one knee and put their equipment on the ground. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So I went back to school and I practiced that, and it works a lot better because when you stop the music and you say freeze, it doesn't give the kids any warning. But when you give the 1, 2, 3, then they hear the music stop, and then they hear you count to 3. And so then by the time everybody's ready to freeze, they all freeze at the same time. So that's worked really well for me. And I want to show you a quick video of that right here so you guys can see how it works. Could you see that, Ronnie? Cool. All right. So
yeah. Well, both screens are showing right now.
Okay. All right, cool. So I should full screen it next time. So that's the stopping signal that we use, and it works really well because the kids, when they go down and say, huh, then it reminds everybody else that they need to freeze. So if you did not hear the stopping signal, you'll hear everybody else. Also, we do something called home-based spots, which is allowing your kids to have assigned spots in the gym, and it's great for check and roll and stretching out, especially at the beginning of the year when you're trying to learn names. One of the teachers that I was a student teacher for had this idea, and she would put tape down on the ground, and it's essentially the same idea, except the way we do it is I have a 1, 2, 3, and a 4 sign on the wall, and then I have A, B, C, D on the opposite or on the perpendicular wall. And so then if kids have a number and a letter, that lets them know where their spot should be. And so it's an easy way without having tape on the ground. It's always coming up. We just leave the numbers and letters up on the wall all the time. So if you're not doing home-based spots, stopping signal, highly recommend those two strategies. The next one is a shoes, timeout, and injury form. And this is something that I created because at the beginning of class, I just would always have somebody coming up to me when I'm trying to get the class going and being like, hey, Mr. Landers, I forgot my shoes. They were at my mom's house, and I'll stay with my dad this weekend. And or they would have some kind of injury that they needed to explain to me. And it would just keep me from getting the class going. So I wanted something that would give those kids some way to record that, whatever happened, if they're injured or they didn't wear the right shoes, without me having to give them my attention. And so this form, we just leave it on the wall. And as soon as kids come into the gym, if they have something going on, they just go and grab that. They don't even come and talk to us. And then once we get the class going, we'll go over there and check with them and see what's up. And then this form also is a good parent communication tool because kids will take this home and get it signed and bring it back. And so that way I know that I'm not having to follow up with parents. I know that kids are taking that home and showing their parents, so their parents know that they didn't wear the right shoes. and then they get reminded about what their PE day is. Also, if you're in the middle of teaching and you send a kid to timeout, which we don't really use that much because I don't send a lot of kids to timeout, but a few times that I do, it's nice to be able to say, hey, go over there, grab that form, and explain what just happened. And then their parents obviously will sign that as well, so they're aware of whatever behavior problems you have. We just hang those on the wall with command strips, and that has worked really well. There's a download on the link on the top of the page, so you can check those out if you want to. The next one is called the conflict corner. This is a really awesome strategy. I originally got the idea of this from that same conference with the stopping signal. J.D. Hughes was presenting, and he has a strategy called the work it out corner, and it's a little bit shorter than this. It's like maybe 4 steps, I think. But the concept was like, oh my gosh, that's so genius. And so basically the way it works is anytime the kids have a problem, instead of coming to tell you about it, they will just go over to the conflict corner, and they will try to resolve that problem by going through those 6 steps. The first one is hands out, palms up, because there's a lot of research about body language and how that affects the way that you feel and your emotions. And so if you open your hands out, that's a good way to relax and approach a problem without being stressed out. And then explain the problem and listen to each other, and then try to brainstorm a solution together. And so if, like, say a kid broke a rule during a game, before I had the conflict corner, what would happen is that kid would see them breaking a rule. They would come and run up to me and say, hey, Mr. Landers, I just saw them break this rule. And then I would call that person over, and then I would walk them through this conflict resolution in front of me. And then it would take like 3 minutes, and then they would get back into the game. And with this, they just do the exact same thing, but they don't need a teacher. They just do it on their own. So anytime a kid comes up to me and tells me something that they saw that's wrong, I immediately say, did you go to the conflict corner yet? And if they haven't, then the rule is they have to go try to solve it on their own. So once again, you're building that self-responsibility and trying to help kids take responsibility for themselves. Any questions about that?
Yeah, Ben, what do you do with kindergarten and first graders with this conflict corner?
Yeah, so first grade, we introduce it in first grade. I only have kindergarten for 25 minutes, so my whole kindergarten curriculum is a little bit modified from everything else that I do. But with first grade, they do it the same exact way as fifth graders, and then they even, like, sometimes you'll see 2 first grade kids like pointing to the sad face or the frowny face, and so it's a great way for them to learn to resolve conflicts. And if they get to the end and they can't resolve it, then they come get me and I'll help them. But that almost never happens, because usually it's not an issue that takes a genius to resolve. It's just, you broke a rule, you stepped over the line. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll try not to do it again. And then they say, okay, and then they get back in the game. But with kindergarten, I don't do this. With kindergarten, I'm just like, we have 25 minutes twice a week, and they walk in the door and we're moving the whole time. And I'm just trying to keep everybody moving, keep everybody from getting hurt, and keep everybody from crying. So we don't do conflict corner with kindergarten. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. If you saw your kids more often, I think you probably could use this with kindergarten. I feel like I'm always trying to catch up with kindergarten and teaching them content, and so I never find time to fit it in. But if you saw your kids more often, I think it would be fine to use this with kindergarten. All right. Yes, next one is called the Good Sportsmanship Code. This is just a way to reinforce good sportsmanship in the gym. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that's something I really realized in my first few years of teaching, was if I didn't address anything about sportsmanship before we played a game, a lot of times I would have problems with people being sore losers or people bragging about winning a game or rubbing it in somebody's face. But then with that same class, if I took about 2 minutes and we talked about the importance of using good sportsmanship and the purpose of playing a game, like, why are we really doing this? Is anybody in here getting paid to play this game? Are you guys professional sports players? Oh, no? Okay, well, what's the purpose? And then we would talk about how if you win, if you lose, it's not really that big of a deal. Sure, you want to try to win. And then during the game, you'll see the good sportsmanship. It's kind of like, oh, if you teach it, that makes sense. The kids learn it. So prevention is huge for sportsmanship, and I try to always mention that before a game or after a game, especially with K1, even modeling what good sportsmanship looks like. So at the beginning of the year, we'll go over this the first time we play a game, and then I don't even address it, but it's just a big poster on our wall. But anytime there's a poor sportsmanship conduct during a game, we immediately stop the game. I turn off the music. Doesn't matter what we're doing, and we all walk over here, and the kids will put their hand on their heart and put one hand in the air like Pledge of Allegiance, and then we all repeat the sportsmanship code together. And it's just been a really easy way for me to remind them quickly about what's important. And good sportsmanship is probably the most important rule that we have in our program, at least. Any questions about good sportsmanship code?
No, but real quick, if I ask you to go to the conflict corner and you say, do you have the opportunity to say no?
Good question. No, you do not. So if somebody refuses to go to the conflict corner, then they immediately come and get me, and I send that person to timeout, because that's not being a good teammate. If you're not willing to help somebody resolve their problem, then you're not using good sportsmanship. And so kids will never do that because they know that they go to timeout immediately. So if a kid asks you to go, then you always say yes, and you go over there and work it out. If you guys want to see a video of me teaching this to my kids, me and my co-teacher Marcus, we flip cammed at the beginning of the year, us teaching the conflict corner to students, and there's a link on the blog as well if you guys want to see that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, and I don't have any questions.
Cool.
Any others?
All right. This is a daily self-assessment, and I'm sure most of you have probably heard Hellison's model of social responsibility in physical activity. Basically, the same exact thing we've been talking about, teaching kids to have responsibility for the things that they do. And this is something that my mentor teacher my first year did. And I was just like, this is such an easy way to get assessment into my lessons every day, because I was really struggling the first few years to do assessment because I was just like trying to learn how to be a teacher. And this is just an automatic way that on the way out of the gym, kids always self-assess themselves. And so the papers on the wall are 4 different grades that kids can get each day. And the bottom one, need more effort, a student would hit that if they went to timeout, or if they weren't able to participate, or anything like that. And then keep on trying would be if they got a warning, but they didn't have to go to timeout, or if they just know that maybe they didn't do their best. And a good job means you did everything you were supposed to do for that day. So good job is kind of like what they want to shoot for every day. We kind of talk about it as like a chocolate sundae. That's like the good job. It's like really good. And then the wow is a bonus challenge. So that's like getting the cherry on top of your sundae. It's like extra credit in PE class. And what we do is just give the kids a bonus challenge each day to hit the wow, so that they can show that they went above and beyond. Now, if let's say a kid completed a bonus challenge, but then they had to go to timeout, they wouldn't hit the wow. They would still hit need more effort. So you have to follow the rules to be able to hit the wow. You have to get everything and more. And good job means you did everything you're supposed to do. You're following directions, doing your 100% best. Keep on trying is like you could have done a little more, or maybe you got one warning because you were talking during the instruction or something like that. I'm going to show you a quick video of the kids on the way out as they are hitting the let me get this earbud. hitting the assessment papers. So on the way out, they're just touching the grade that they get, and then I'm standing behind and watching as kids hit their grade. And so if you see a student and they're on the way out of the gym and they hit a wow, but you know that you had to give them a warning or they went timeout, that's a great opportunity for you to talk to that student so that they are aware of where they stand in your class. And also it works the flip side. Like sometimes I'll see some of my best students keep on trying, and I'm like, hey, come here for a second. Like, why did you hit that? And then they're like, well, I just didn't feel like I wasn't very good at shooting basketball or something like that. That was just totally out of their control. And that's a great opportunity for you to realize, hey, or to talk to that kid about, that's not what this is about. Like, this is about doing your best, following the directions, and giving it everything you have so that you can get your personal best. Doesn't mean you're going to be the best in the class of what we're doing. It's about getting personal improvement. So that's an awesome thing. We do it every day at the end of every class. Once again, I don't do this with kindergarten just because they just got to school. It's like hard for them to walk in a straight line. So I give them 1 year to get used to being in school before we implement this. I do it with first through fifth. Those papers are also downloaded. There's a free download on the link on the Tozzle page as well. Any questions about that one?
Yeah, can you show any examples of bonus challenges?
Yeah, so let's say like we're doing throw-in right now. So I had an activity where students were doing a partner toss. And so the bonus challenge for that day, I think it was with second grade, was they were going to go with their partner. They walked to a line with the ball, and then they took 5 steps back from the line, and they did an underhand toss, and they tried to toss it back and forth from that distance 6 times in a row. And if they tossed it 6 times, they would jog a lap, and then they would come back and do it again. So the bonus challenge was if you were able to toss the ball back and forth 6 times in a row. So it's usually something that's not like so far out of reach that only one student's going to be able to do it. I try to set kids up for success. But it's also, not every kid is able to do that. So it is extra. And then sometimes when we play a game, the team that wins can hit the wow because they were able to use teamwork effectively. If you check out my hula hut relays, I posted a blog about hula hut relays. The bonus challenge that day was if your team was one of the first teams done during the relay. So I had 4 teams doing relays, and we did like 4 different challenges. And if your team was ever first, the first one's done, and you get to hit the wow on the way out because you're showing that you had good teamwork. Any other questions about that?
We've got one. It says, if you notice someone who needs more effort, how do you modify your teaching for the child? And what do you do with the information when they're telling you if they've done a good job or not?
Well, I'm keeping track of this on my roll sheet. So throughout the day, if I give a student a warning, like if they're talking during instruction and I said, hey, strike 1, don't talk while I'm talking, I record that on my roll sheet. So then when students are lining up, I've got my roll and I'm like, all right, John and Sarah better keep on trying because I know that I had to give them a warning. And then I'm also recording students that if I was able to record the skill assessment that we were doing that day, I'm not always recording skills, but some days we're doing a legitimate skill assessment and that's how they can hit the wow. Or if we did a pacer test and maybe the wow level, like for a pacer was 15 laps, then I know the students that are able to hit the wow. And then for need more effort, that means the student went to timeout. So I've got my role. If a student had to go to timeout, I know who that is. And I don't know if that answered your question. How do I modify the teaching? Anytime a student goes to timeout, we have a little heart-to-heart about their performance and what they need to change. And I might modify my teaching by showing that student some extra attention or giving them some positive feedback they need to feel more successful. So I guess that would be a way I would modify it, if that answers the question. I'm not sure.
I think so, and that's
Okay.
all.
Cool. And then there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I've seen, I think Joey Fife had a blog about a pizza, and somebody did the same strategy, but the need more effort was just the empty crust, and then keep on trying was like the crust and the sauce. Good job was like crust, sauce, cheese, and then the wow was like a supreme pizza. So you can do it that way as well, having it more visual so kids can understand how that works. And then there's also a link to Kevin Tiller has a similar like 4-point grading rubric that you might want to check out if you're interested in trying this out. It's the guy that runs the Phys Ed Review website. If you haven't seen that, it's a really cool website. All right, then this one is Timeout Penalty Box and a refocus and doing a self-time. So this is a really cool strategy that you can use by either putting an iPad or a stopwatch in your like timeout area, wherever that is. Or you can just have kids count Mississippis, which is usually what I do, because I just, why set up an iPad or a stopwatch if I can just make the students be responsible for themselves. And so the main way that I use this is during a game. If a student ever breaks a rule, then they must go to the penalty box. And that's not going to timeout. It's just like if we're playing a game and I stepped over a line when I was throwing and I wasn't supposed to, then I broke a rule. And so I have to go to the penalty box. And we talk about how that's the exact same in sports, you know, or in real life. If you speed on the road, you have to get pulled over and you get a ticket. And so students know that if they don't follow the rules of the game, it's not a big deal. They're not in trouble, but they still have to go to the penalty box. And so they'll usually count 60 Mississippis, except for kindergarten, we'll probably do like 10 Mississippis because they couldn't count to 60. And then they just come back into the game. And so it's been really great for me because I'm like watching the game and then I see a student step over the line and I'm just waiting to see if they're going to call themselves out. And then they like walk over to the bench and sit out and count to 60. And also it prevents you from, I'm sure probably everybody's had that experience where they had a student that was in timeout and then they started teaching and they totally forgot. And then they look back and they're like, oh no, like that kid's been sitting there for 5 minutes. And so this way you won't ever have a student being in timeout for a long period of time where you've forgotten about them or you just couldn't get back around to them to talk to them. And then once again, you know, do we see a pattern? All of these are just putting that responsibility on the students. And honestly, I think kids really appreciate that. And I think that they would rather be responsible for themselves. And as teachers, I hope that you would rather have your students be responsible for themselves rather than, you know, having to manage everything that they're doing. So that's a really cool strategy and works great, especially during gameplay. That penalty box idea has been really good for us. Any questions about that one?
No.
Cool. All right, I'm going to keep on going with student role attendance management. I'm still old school and I use paper and pencil for this, although I did go to a really cool session on using an app called iDocio. But for me, I only see my kids once a week, so it's just not that hard to keep track of everything, since I know the same kids come on the same day every week. And the clipboard is great when I have substitutes because then the substitutes have the role and they can make notes for me. And what I've done is made these codes to signify different things that happen. So like you can see the wall right there, those are my 5 days of the week. So each day has a different roll sheet because I have different classes on each day, but the kids only come once a week. So it's the same classes every Thursday, same classes every Friday. And then on the back, this, the one over here on the right, on the back of every clipboard, there's a weekly schedule so that subs can easily find it, and also so that I can just keep up with it because our schedule changes every year. So it's really hard for me to remember when classes are ending, when they're starting, especially at the beginning of the year. So it's easy for me to flip up and look at that in the middle of the lesson to make sure I have enough time. And then at the bottom of every roll is just a little like key that is kind of like what I was talking about before with the self-assessment. If a student was talking during instruction, then I would just write TWP in their little box. If they did it again, I would hit ×2, and then they would go timeout. And so that's just a way for me to keep track very simply of what goes on. We see a lot of students, and I just want to be able to back up my grades. If a parent comes to me and says, hey, why did my child not get, exceeds expectations? I want to be able to look at my role and say, well, it's because they wore flip-flops half the time, and then they also talked during every single lesson that we had. And so it's easy for me to back that up with data if I'm taking quick notes like that. And those are very doable during instruction for me to just run over, grab my clipboard, make a quick note, and then get back into teaching. Also at the bottom of the schedule, I have the recess schedule. And for me, that's important because I don't really have a good outdoor space except for the recess playground. And so I want to know if I have an activity that I want to take kids outside, I want to know when the playground's open. Because if kids come out to recess when I'm trying to teach, it's just totally disruptive and not worth it. So I'd rather just stay in the gym. Now, if you have your kids more than once a week, or you have a different schedule and you're not seeing them only once a week, I totally see where having your roles on your iPad and things like that would be beneficial. But for me, this is the way it works best. And then I'm transcribing them into PowerSchool, which is our grading system from this. And that's another reason why setting up iDocio or some other app to do roles and grades, for me, I'm like, I'm going to set all that up, but then I still have to put it from there into PowerSchool. So what's the difference in doing paper and doing an app? Although I am interested and open to better methods of this, and I would enjoy having all this stuff on my iPad if I found a good way to do it, but I just haven't yet. So that's how I do it. Also, one more thing. This is I don't think you can see, you guys can't really see the pictures, but if you have an IEP or a 504, I summarize all my IEPs and 504s in like a few sentences, like if it's like preferential seating or, don't, I don't know, whatever your 504s or IEPs would be. I'll put a little asterisk next to the student's name, and then I just put a summarized IEP at the bottom. Obviously, if it's super confidential, you can't do that, but for subs, it's important for them to know, hey, this person needs some extra attention. And so I have those on each one of my classes. So when my classes come in for a substitute, they know if there's students that have an IEP or a 504 that they need to know about. So that's an easy way to do that as well. Does anybody have any questions about the management section before we move on?
Real quick about behavior forms. If you send one home and they don't bring it back.
Yes. So you're talking about the that orange paper that we have on the wall on the clipboard.
Yes.
Yeah. If they don't bring it back, then I'll call the parent.
Okay.
And definitely for behavior, if it was like tennis shoes, then I probably wouldn't. But if that parent contacts me and they want to know why their student didn't get a great grade, then I'll say, well, I sent you 3 forms home. You didn't get them because they told me that you signed them. And so that's just, it's a way to put, again, the responsibility on the student. So if a parent calls, you're like, hey, I gave them the form they're supposed to take it home and get it signed. But if it's a behavior issue, then I definitely keep track of it. We just have so many going home for shoes that it's kind of hard to keep track of. So usually if they bring them back, I take them. And if they don't bring them back, I just don't keep track of it well enough to know.
And about how many students do you teach?
We have a little over 600 at the school, and I'm teaching either single classes or double classes, about 480 of those. Marcus, my co-teacher, is also at the school 2 days a week. So he takes a good bit of kids as well. And then we have some classes together, so we're kind of both teaching those classes.
Okay. That's it.
Yep. So next up is our teaching hacks section. A couple quotes down there. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. I know I'm preaching to the choir on that one because you guys wouldn't be here if you didn't care about your kids and you weren't trying to make yourself a better teacher. But building that respect with your students is so important to be a good teacher and allow them to pay attention to you. And then I heard a guy named Jeremy Boone talk about this at one of the sessions I went to last year at a phys ed conference. And one of his things was the most important thing a teacher can bring with them every day is a smile. And I definitely agree with that. I think that, you know, every day when your kids walk into the gym, they should see you smiling, because it's such a great way to help them connect physical activity with positivity and fun. And so you can be a big part of that as a PE teacher. First up is knowing your kids' names. Hopefully all you guys know your kids' names. Now, I just told you guys I know everybody's name in the school, so I know about 600 names. I heard some people at one of the conferences yesterday saying they have 100 kids in a class, and so that just kind of blows my mind. And I think you should try to know their names, but totally get it if you're in one of those situations where it's like just not possible. But I personally couldn't imagine teaching without knowing my kids' names, because I wouldn't be able to give feedback. I wouldn't be able to handle behavior problems and things like that. And also, when you're walking down the hall and you say, "Hey, what's up, Joni? How's it going?" Then that really makes that student feel special because you know their name. When I'm at morning duty in the car line and I'm opening doors for kids as they're getting out of their parents' cars, and then I call them by name, their parents are kind of like, "Whoa, like he knows everybody's names. That's awesome." So I think you should make a big effort to do that if possible. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, it's tough because you're getting a lot of new kids. If you're elementary, kindergarten kids are coming in. And one idea I stole this year from one of the ESP chat sessions was on the first day of kindergarten, I took iPad pictures of all of the students with their name tags on. And then me and my co-teacher Marcus made Google Drive folders of each class, and each one had, you know, 20 kids in the class with their name tags. So when you have a kindergarten class at the beginning of school, you don't know their names, but you can pull up Google Drive and look at the folder and scroll through them real quick and learn the names a lot faster. And then we shared that with our art and music, foreign language, and computer teachers as well, who were like, "Oh, this is great." So that's a great little hack to help you learn names. And then also having those home-based spots is great, because when you're stretching out, you can be playing some name games in your head and running through those names. Highly recommend doing that. Also, buy a yearbook and then review it the week before school starts is another helpful hack to try to remember names. Quick little points are, first is when I say go. Hopefully everybody's using that one. Like, I say that phrase probably 100 times a day. Before any activity where students are supposed to be moving, I always say, "When I say go, I want you to go to the yellow square." And then I wait. And if students start moving, then they slowly inch back. And then usually like half the class is moving, half the class is staying. They're like, "You didn't say go yet." So, you know, make sure that kids are not moving around while you're trying to give directions, because if they aren't going to hear the directions. And so stop and repeat those directions. I always start everything with "when I say go." Second one is separate management and organization. That's something that I did not do at the beginning, but I really quickly figured out that if I would get excited and I would explain how to do a game, and then I would get kids where they needed to be and give them their jerseys. And then by the time I got kids organized, it was like they totally forgot how to play the game. So make sure if you're doing any kind of organization before an activity, it needs to happen first. And then you teach the content or you demonstrate the task or the activity. And then as soon as you get done demonstrating, you hit play on your iPod, and then the kids start. So you want kids to be able to begin the activity right after teaching, not after organizing, because they won't remember it. Always use music when kids should be moving. Man, I could not imagine teaching without music. If you're teaching outside, you can get one of those ion block rockers that Bluetooth to your phone or to your iPod, and it's battery powered, so you can just carry it outside. We have one of those at school, and it's really great for anytime we go outside. Another cool little thing that I've been doing the past couple of years is anytime we do a game or activity, that's team-based, I'll explain it, and then I say, all right, you got 30 seconds to talk to your team before I start the music. And that just gives kids this like golden time to strategize and talk to their teams. And it's the like most fun thing to listen in on as a teacher, when you're just like hearing all these kids, just like all this learning and teamwork and everything that's going on. It just makes you feel like you're doing something right, even though, again, the kids are taking total responsibility. All you did was give them the time and put them in the situation so that they could actually use it. Before, I would just explain the game and say, all right, ready, go. And just giving kids 30 seconds. It's kind of that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like that little time up front makes a huge difference when they get into the game because they're using their brains. And so that's a really fun strategy to use. If you're not doing that, I would definitely recommend it. Allow kids to choose their own teams when appropriate. If you need to split kids up so the teams are even, that's one thing. But a lot of times, especially when you're doing cooperative games and things, the way I'll do it is say, all right, 6 kids behind the cone, ready, go. And then they just all get behind the cone as quick as they can. So that usually leads to better teamwork because students are choosing who they want to be with. Bathroom and water fountain. The way that I do that procedure in my program is only when the music is on are they allowed to go. So if the music is off, that means we're either lining up or I'm teaching or we're going to home base, but they cannot go if the music's not on. So anytime a student comes to ask me, which if they come and ask me, they already didn't follow the rules, because the rule is do not ask me to go to the bathroom or get water. Just listen and see if you hear any music. And if you do, then you can go and get water. So if a kid ever comes to ask me, I just immediately say, do you hear any music? And if they do, then they go. And if they don't, then they say no. And then they do what they're supposed to be doing. So it's just an easy way, again, to put that responsibility on them so they're not always coming up and asking you and pestering you. Obviously, you might have emergencies where students need to go, and that's fine. But general rule, if the music's on, then that means that means you can go. If the music is off, then that means you need to be listening. And then this last one is just kind of a mindset hack that I found to be a helpful way to think about discipline. And this was actually something that I got from a parenting thing that I went through when we had our daughter. And I was like, wow, that makes total sense. And the guy that was talking was talking about when you discipline, always start the phrase with, oh, no. And that just communicates to them that you're really sad that they messed up and you're on their side. And so for me, like that really helps out with kindergarten and first grade because you can get so frustrated sometimes. But to remember to say, oh man, you were touching that ball while I was talking. You got to go sit on the bench. That stinks. And to have that attitude of, man, I feel your pain. I am so sorry that you didn't follow those directions because I really wanted you to be in this activity. It's a great way to discipline kids because it lets them know that you're on their side. And then when you go talk to them about it, they're open to hearing what you have to say instead of saying, oh, don't touch that ball while I'm talking, or, what you really feel like saying, even if that's not the way that you feel, you might be frustrated in the moment. So that's just a quick little mindset thing that's helped me out when I'm disciplining kids at school. Any comments or questions on those?
Yeah, you've got a lot of procedures, and we've got someone tuning in that has a lot of transient kids. How do you get those new kids to learn all the procedures?
That's a great question. When kids come in, a lot of these are not going to happen every day. And so, like, if a new student comes in, I'll pull them aside. And when my kids get into the instant activity, I'm like, hey, this is how the instant activity works. This is what you're going to do when you come into the gym. And then I'll show them their home base spot so that when I send everybody to home base, they know where to go. And then, when we're playing a game, I'll, again, just pull them aside and say, hey, during the game, if you need to get water, go to the bathroom, just listen for the music if you hear the music. It is hard. It's hard to get those transient kids that move in the middle of the year. And if you have a lot of them, then it might be the kind of situation where they're doing something wrong that's against one of your procedures, and that's when you catch it, and that's when you tell them. So maybe you give them a mulligan and allow those kids to have one one mess up because obviously they didn't know because they're new. But yeah, that's tough.
That's all.
Okay, cool. Increasing the buy-in. This is something that's just a way that you can teach. There's a lot of studies that talk about when you say something, it helps you believe it. You've heard that phrase, fake it till you make it. And I've really tried to use that in my teaching a lot, especially at the elementary level. You can get kids to say anything. And so, I'm trying to get my kids to repeat the ideologies and the philosophies that I have in my program that I want them to believe. Even if they don't believe it, I'm still going to get them to say it. So, before we play a game, I'm always like, hey, everybody remember, it's just and the kids are like, a game. And so they all remember it's just a game, and it helps with that good sportsmanship. And before we start jumping rope or hula hooping with kindergarten, first grade, I always say, everybody put your hand on your heart and say, I will not give up. And then the kids all say it. And so anytime you can get kids to repeat things back to you, I think is going to increase the buy-in. And it's also just going to help them remember, oh yeah, I won't ever learn this if I don't give up. And it is just a game. And those things that as teachers, we've seen it so many times. So it seems so common sense to us. And it's so frustrating when kids might not like realize it's just a game, but they're only 5 years old. And so we have to help them out. And then at the end of class, saying, oh man, because you ran out of time, is something that we started doing recently. Kindergarten, pat yourself on the back. Everybody say, nice job, self. So all those little confidence builders are great ways to increase buy-in, increase confidence, and just help kids have a good time, and also to help yourself laugh throughout the day and have fun as you're teaching. So with kindergarten, I was talking about kind of having a modified curriculum. We don't do conflict corner. We don't do self-assessment. Every single day when kindergartners come into the gym, I ask them these 3 questions. I say, when the teacher's talking, what are you doing? And then the kids all say, listening. And I say, if you have something to say, what should you do? And they all say, raise your hand. And then I say, keep your hands and feet to, and they all say, yourself. And so every day, the entire year, that's how we start class. And that's really helped with them remembering. Once again, they say it, it helps them process it, it helps them believe it. So that's a great way, especially with kindergarten and first grade, to review those rules. And man, running out of time. Gotta go quick. Lead by example. It's a little hypocritical to ask kids to lead a healthy lifestyle, use patience, and admit when they're wrong if you're not doing the same. I try to take any opportunity I can to admit when I messed up in class. If you're teaching something and you say, all right, everybody do this, ready, go, and everybody does the wrong thing, then that's your fault. So like bring everybody back in and say, man, I did not explain that very good. I'm so sorry. This is what I should have said. And so, we mess up all the time as teachers, and it goes a long way for students if you can admit that to them in front of the whole class and use it as a teaching point to lead by example. There's some great quotes to check out from some awesome people. And then I'll quickly go through these equipment hacks because we're getting pretty close to 9 o'clock. So with equipment stuff, what you really need to do is just think like MacGyver. Any problem can be solved with a little ingenuity. So first thing is volleyball nets. I found myself like almost never using the volleyball nets because they were such a pain to set up and roll out the standards. And then I saw somebody that had the net like hanging on a bag on the wall. And then there's a little hook like this that you see in the picture. And they just like pulled it out of the bag and stretched it across on a bungee cord and hooked it onto another hook. It was like 2-minute setup. And so I just went and bought some anchors, screwed them into my walls, and actually one net is not long enough to go all the way across. And so I took 2 nets, I zip tied them together, and so I have those in a bag. So anytime I want to use the volleyball nets, I just pull them out, hook up the bungee onto the hook, and then stretch it across the gym. And it takes about 2 minutes to set it up, and I can quickly take it down. So that's a great, easy way to set up volleyball nets. Not enough batting tees. There's lots of different things you can do. You can do like make your own with PVC pipe, use a comb. That one in the middle, we had a batting tee that went bad on the bottom, but the top of it was still working. So we just duct taped the comb and stuck the top down in there for the batting tee. Storage solutions, like when I got the job at my gym, everything was in either cardboard boxes or like this little like milk crate thing in the middle, which is so frustrating to me because there's so much space back there on the shelf that you're just not using. And so I'm slowly in the process of getting bigger containers that are clear so you can see what's in them, that take up the entire shelf space, hanging stuff on the wall, organizing. You can spend hours on Pinterest looking at different ways to organize stuff. For our height and weight, we do a little paper shield when we're doing the weight for the kids so that they have a little bit of privacy, and so kids aren't trying to peek in and see how much they weigh. I've also seen people set up gymnastics mats as like a barrier when they're doing their weight. We don't do that because it seems like you're making a little bit too big of a deal out of it. And we don't want our kids to be like too self-conscious. So this has worked really well for us. Wall stops. These are the wall stops that we have in our gym up here, that number 4. And then I also have some of these. This is actually a picture off of Kevin Tiller's website again. These are called shop tickets or dry erase holders, and they're great station sign holders. You can get the portrait version like that, or you can also get a landscape kind that holds it like the one that I have the picture of up there. And so that's a great way to do station signs. You can just either put them on a comb or throw a command strip up on the wall and hang it on the command strip. Gator ball repair, that duct tape is one of my pictures. That's how I've repaired the gator balls when they started to rip, because they're like so expensive. I don't want to have to buy new ones. And then I got on the bottom, Kevin Tiller actually has a video of how to repair it with super glue, taking an old ball that's already messed up beyond repair and cutting a little circle and then super gluing it on top. I thought that was a pretty great idea. So you should definitely go check that video out if you want to try that out. If you don't have any money, you can many times find a lot of different alternatives on Amazon that are really cheap, or you can like make your own. So I think balance beams, if you buy a balance beam, I want to say it's like $500 or something. But I mean, this 2x4 balance beam, I didn't look it up, but it can't cost more than 25 bucks to make. And then, you know, the Toxic River with the 5-gallon buckets, you can make your own stomp boards, peg boards. I made a little box for my TV to protect it. We have a big flat screen TV in the gym that has a little plexiglass front. You can make your own hurdles and soccer goals. You can pretty much make most of the equipment that we have. Some of it's not worth it. So, you know, you want to price it out and then just do a little searching on Dr. Google and see what you can find. But there's usually lots of different ways to be creative with equipment and find some ways to make your own stuff. Also, you can use stuff that you already have to play games like cornhole, like the picture of that hula hoop and the deck ring. If you don't have cornhole boards, but you want to teach your kids the concept, you can just toss bean bags and try to get them to go into the deck ring, and that would be 3 points, or land on the hula hoop, and that would be 1 point. So like simulating a cornhole board. Or if you want to play can jam, you could just use 5-gallon buckets and a foam frisbee and do the exact same rules as normal can jam. If you don't know what can jam is, it's a really fun like frisbee yard game, and you can look it up. I have a link on the page, the Taza page. When you click on that link, there's a link to can jam rules, so you can look at that. And then bocce ball, you can use yarn balls in the gym, or any kind of ball really, and teach kids how to play bocce ball. So there's some quick examples of ways you can use alternative equipment. Some more bonus hacks, a little iPad mount that I did last year because I didn't have a legitimate iPad mount yet. I have all of my cones have numbers on them. I use them all the time. And it's just, you know, 1-page laminated duct tape. That's it for the cones. We use those with stations. We use them for Jump Rope for Heart, for field day, all the time. So that's a really good thing that I've used a lot. The bottom right, the hula hoops, a lot of times those staples will kind of like start to pop up after a while. And if you just wrap some floor tape or electrical tape around it, it will keep the hula hoops from separating. And then this picture in the middle, if you haven't seen one of those, they actually do sell them like that, but you can make your own really easily with some PVC and a jump rope and a wiffle ball. So that's a fun game that you can play with a lot of kids, where they're swinging the rope around and jumping over it. Or if you're doing a jump rope unit and you have a student that has a cast and they can only use one arm, that's a way that you can allow them to jump rope with one arm. And that's it for equipment hacks. Any questions on those?
No, and you have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. All right, technology hacks. Show Me app. There's some links to some Show Me's I've done. It's just a really great way to give teachers instructions. iPhone panoramic. Before, I would have to, when I was doing the lesson plan, I would want to keep track of my setup, and I would do like a picture diagram in Paint or Publisher or something like that. And then last year, I don't know why I'd never thought of this, but I just started taking iPhone panoramic to the gym and then copying those into my lesson plan. So then the next year I can just look at it and see exactly how I had it set up. So that's a really quick, easy one. Canned response is an awesome hack that you can use to save time for big events like Jump Rope or Heart and Field Day. And basically it allows you to you can save a template email like that one I have down there. That's one of my field day emails. So when parents email me, I can template that back to them and I don't have to write the same email over and over and over again. Plickers, I got a blog coming up on this. This is my first year using Plickers, but I really like it a lot. It's a great way to assess kids. So that's definitely a hack to allow your kids to take tests without using pencil and paper. And the way it works is you would ask a question like, what is the PACER test measuring? And the kids have these little cards, and then you scan them with your iPad, and it is really quick and easy, and it records all the answers for you. So stay tuned for more info on that one. Also, you can Google around and find some great instructions on Plickers. Bluetooth streaming. Man, I'm so glad I don't have to use CDs anymore because they were always skipping. And we Bluetooth stream straight to our stereo using this little Bluetooth receiver. Also, it's great being able to use an iPad or iPod for music, because if you start a new song, every time you start an activity, you can keep track of the time. So every time I look down the iPod, that's how long my kids have been in that specific activity. So that's a cool way for you to keep track of your time. iTunes song hack. If you have a song that has like a long intro or a long outro, but it's a really great song and you want to cut out like the first 30 seconds, when you're in iTunes, you can click on options, and where it says start right here in the right, you can see that start 000. You can change that to 30 seconds. And then next time you play that song, it'll immediately start at 30 seconds. You can skip those slow intros. Putting pictures and videos on a USB. So instead of streaming YouTube videos, I put all of my pictures on a USB, and that allows me to quickly bring them up, and I don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. And I use a program called, I think it's called YouTube Video Downloader, I want to say. There's a lot of different ways to do it. QR codes, I would refer you to Joey Fife and Jared Robinson, because they both have some awesome stuff on using QR codes. And that's it, friends. The ultimate hack: don't recreate the wheel. Get on Twitter, read blogs, buy books, go to conferences, and jump in on free online learning like you are right now. Just want to say thank you guys so much for spending time watching this. And if I can ever answer any questions or be of any help to you, please let me know. Thanks to the ESPE chat folks for setting this up, because it's been a lot of fun. And also for Ronnie, thank you for moderating and keeping us on track. That's it.
Thank you, Ben. I've got one question before you leave.
Okay.
It was asked earlier in the presentation, what kind of assessments do you use, or what kind of assessment forms do you use for your skills?
For skills, usually I'm doing a 1, 2, 3 assessment, because our grades are unable to meet progressing towards and meet expectations. And so this is actually the first year that we've done standards-based report cards, and we're piloting it right now. And so for like kindergarten, first and second grade, I have 6 specific standards that I will be assessing them on that will actually go on their report card home to their parents. So like my second grade kids on their report card is going to say is able to throw a ball overhand and hit a wall 30 feet away. And then it's going to say either meets, unable to meet, or progressing towards. And so that's the kind of assessments that I'm usually doing as far as skills assessments. Is, you know, I'm either doing like a check or assessing like 2 or 3 cues and recording those on my roll, either as a station or as a whole class. It really just depends on the situation. You know, jump rope assessment is real easy. You just start the timer and see who can jump rope the longest, or if they can make it to a 30-second increment. And then some other times it might just be I'm letting the kids play a game and I'm doing teacher observation. So it really just depends. We try to make it as no pressure as possible for the kids, so that we just want them to have fun playing a game, and we want to be able to see where their skills are at during the game. Anything else?
No, that's it. You've got a lot of positive feedback coming at you, and I'll just wrap this up. And I just want to say thank you for everyone for attending, and thank you, Ben, for such a great presentation. You've had a lot of great information in that last hour. I want to thank the Phys Ed Summit for team for your guidance and putting this on. And remember to get professional development. Make sure you fill out the link listed in the Tazzle, and I'll make sure I repost it. And it's also on the ESPE Weebly chat. Thanks.